Indonesia is burning. Protests over corruption and inequality explode into nationwide chaos. Parliament buildings torched, police gates torn down, and 3 people killed in a deadly blaze in Makassar. The spark? A young driver crushed by a police vehicle. For President Prabowo, less than a year in power, this is the fiercest test of his rule. Three people were killed and 5 others injured in Indonesia after demonstrators torched the regional parliament building in Makassar, South Sulawesi's provincial capital, on August 29th. The deadly blaze marked the first major test for President Prabowo Subianto's government less than a year into his presidency. According to the National Disaster Management Agency, the victims died after being trapped inside the burning council building. 2 of the injured were hurt after leaping from the flames in a desperate attempt to escape. Indonesia's state-run Antara news agency reported that several of the dead had no way out as the fire spread rapidly through the structure. The unrest first ignited earlier in the week in Jakarta, where demonstrators rallied against parliamentary allowances. Tensions escalated dramatically on the night of August 28th when a police armoured vehicle struck and killed 21-year-old motorcycle taxi driver Affan Kurniawan during a protest outside the House of Representatives. President Prabowo, who took office in October, visited Kurniawan's family on August 29th, promising accountability.
I am shocked and disappointed by the excessive actions of the officers. I have ordered a thorough and transparent investigation into the death of Affan Kurniawan, and I appeal to the public to trust my government.
His condolences, however, did little to calm the streets. By August 29th, Makassar was engulfed in chaos. Crowds hurled rocks and Molotov cocktails at city council offices. Vehicles were torched and the council building itself was set ablaze. Rahmat Mapatoba, secretary of the Makassar Council, told AFP the fire was unprecedented in scale.
They were trapped in the burning building. This is beyond our prediction. Usually during a demonstration, protesters only threw rocks or burn a tire in front of the office. They never stormed into the building or burned it.
2 of the victims were local council staff, another a civil servant. 2 died at the scene, 1 later in the hospital. At least 4 others were hospitalized with injuries. The violence quickly spread beyond Makassar. Local media reported that protesters torched regional parliamentary buildings in West Nusa Tenggara, Pekalongan in Central Java, and Cirebon in West Java. In Jakarta, hundreds massed outside the headquarters of the Mobile Brigade Corps, a paramilitary police unit notorious for its heavy-handed tactics. Protesters hurled firecrackers and attempted to tear down gates as police responded with tear gas. Police said 7 officers were detained for questioning over Kurniawan's death. National Police Chief Listio Sigit Prabowo pledged firm action against anyone who broke the law, underscoring the high stakes for the government. The protests, now stretching from Jakarta to Medan, Surabaya, Yogyakarta and Manado, are the largest and most violent since Prabowo assumed office. They erupted against a backdrop of simmering discontent over rising living costs and perceptions of elite corruption. For many Indonesians, the killing of Kurniawan was the spark that set the tinder alight. Behind the flames lies a mix of economic strain, political anger, and distrust of authority that has built up over months. At the heart of the protests are lawmakers' allowances. Reports show that 580 members of parliament receive a monthly housing allowance of 50 million Indonesian rupees, or about $3,000, almost 10 times Jakarta's minimum wage, which has enraged a population struggling under inflation and stagnant wages. Gajayan Memanggil, from one of the groups organising the protests, accused parliamentarians of abusing public funds.
We are calling for a salary cut for parliamentarians. They are corrupt elites while ordinary people cannot make ends meet.
At the same time, workers complain of eroding purchasing power. Taxes, inflation, and widespread job losses have left many struggling. Between January and June, more than 42,000 people were laid off, a 32% increase on the previous year, according to the Ministry of Manpower. Ride-hailing drivers like Kurniawan have been hit especially hard, facing longer hours and steeper platform deductions. Economist Bima Yudhistira Adinagara told AFP the crisis reflected years of pent-up frustration.
The problems piled up like dried hay, and the parliament lit the fire. There are problems with unfair taxes, people's declining purchasing power, and the lack of job opportunities. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
The protests also reveal unease with Prabowo's economic agenda. The former general campaigned on promises of 8% growth and investment-driven expansion. Yet analysts have long dismissed the target as unrealistic. The World Bank forecasts average growth of just 4.8% between 2025 and 2027. His flagship populist policy, a $1 billion free meal program, has been funded by deep budget cuts, angering many. At the same time, new ventures such as the multi-billion-dollar Danantara Sovereign Wealth Fund have stoked fears of elite capture and corruption. The violent protests are therefore more than a reaction to a single tragedy. They reflect frustration with entrenched inequality, distrust of institutions, and fear that Prabowo may revert to authoritarian habits from his military past. Observers warn the president must tread carefully. Maid Supriyatma, visiting fellow at Singapore's ICS Yusof Ishak Institute, said symbolic steps were urgently needed.
If I were the president, I'd remove the national police chief from his post. The people need a symbolic gesture from him.
The government's room for manoeuvre is narrowing. On August 29th, the Jakarta Stock Exchange closed down 1.5%, while the rupiah fell 0.8% against the dollar amid investor jitters. The protests have already prompted the Singaporean embassy in Jakarta to urge its citizens to avoid large gatherings. Meanwhile, demonstrations continue to spread. In Surabaya, protesters stormed the governor's office compound, torching vehicles and tearing down fences. In Medan and Manokwari, students and motorcycle taxi drivers rallied with demands ranging from wage hikes to the dissolution of parliament. Calls are now mounting online for another mass rally outside parliament in Jakarta next week. For Prabowo, the stakes are enormous. Critics say he must prove his administration can deliver both justice and economic relief without resorting to authoritarian tactics. Whether his call for calm can halt the wave of anger remains uncertain. For now, the flames that engulfed Makassar and spread across Indonesia symbolize a nation in turmoil and a presidency facing its fiercest trial yet.